Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Storytime with Rob. It is so beautiful out here, I could not resist. So, can you believe it? Today is Friday, and you all know what that means. Yes, you do. It is Festive Fabulous Friday, Self Improvement Saturday, and I am so grateful to be here today. Today is July 3rd, and tomorrow is the 4th of July, and that is even more exciting. Great weekend ahead, and I hope that you enjoy this story as much as I did putting it together last night. I was up late. I just couldn't get this thought out of my head, and I think we need this more now than ever before. So I hope you enjoy it. This is called the Star Spangled Banner. On a rainy September 13th, 1814, British warships sent a downpour of shells and rockets onto Fort McHenry in Baltimore Harbor, relentlessly pounding the Americans' fort for 25 hours. The bombardment, known as the Battle of Baltimore, came only weeks after the British had attacked Washington, D.C., burning the Capitol, the Treasury, and the President's house. It was yet another chapter in the ongoing War of 1812. But a week earlier, Francis Key Scott, a 35-year-old American lawyer, had boarded the flagship of the British fleet on the Chesapeake Bay in hopes of persuading the British to release a friend who had recently been arrested. Key's tactics were successful, but because he and his companions had gained knowledge of the impending attack on Baltimore, the British did not let them go. They allowed the Americans to return to their own vessel, but continued guarding them. Under their scrutiny, they told them that they would demolish the fort, and only after would they then release those prisoners. This stronghold was a strategic key to the British in this battle. The defeat of the fort and its 1,000 men would serve as a demoralizing defeat to the U.S. The U.S., previously to this, had commissioned a flag to be made to fly over the fort so that the British could easily see it from their ships. This was no ordinary flag, mind you. It was 42 feet by 30 feet, hand sewn, and it was proudly flown on a huge pole for all the British ships to see as they came near the fort. Key watched on September 13 as the barrage of Fort McHenry began 8 miles away. It seemed as though Mother Earth had opened and was vomiting shot and shell in a sheet of fire and brimstone, Key wrote later. But when the darkness arrived, Key saw only red erupting in the sky. Given the scale of the attack, he was certain the British would win. The hours passed slowly, but in the clearing smoke of the dawn's early light, Key knew that as long as he could still see the flag standing and not a white flag of surrender, he then would know that they had not surrendered but were still fighting on. You had to believe that there were many of the prisoners aboard those ships who had to be wondering, after all this bombing, was the flag still there? Was the flag still there? Was it still flying over the fort? And on the morning of September 14th, after over 25 hours of bombardment from over 16 British ships, there was a silence. And as the smoke and the haze and the mist lifted by the dawn's early light, he saw standing proudly in the air the American flag, not the British Union Jack flying high above the rampart over the fort, announcing an American victory. Miraculously, the damage to the fort was minimal, and of the 1,000 soldiers, only 4 were killed. The tide of the war was reversed, the British retreated, and just a few months later, a peace treaty was signed by the U.S. and Britain. Key put his thoughts on paper while still aboard the ship, setting his words to the tune of a popular English song. His brother-in-law, commander of the militia at Fort McHenry, read Key's work and had it distributed under the name Defense of Fort McHenry. The Baltimore Patriot newspaper printed it, and within weeks Key's poem, now called the Star Spangled Banner, appeared in print across the country, immortalizing his words and forever naming the flag that it celebrated. Nearly two centuries later, that flag that inspired Key still survives today. Though fragile and worn by the years, to preserve this American icon, experts in the National Museum of American History, the Smithsonian, recently completed an 8-year conservation treatment of that flag. It's exciting to realize that you're looking at the very same flag that Francis Scott Key saw on that September morning in 1814. But the Star Spangled Banner is more than an artifact. It is also a national symbol. It evokes powerful emotions and ideas about what it means to be an American. Listen to these words and reflect on the story that I just told you. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through that perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. The Star Spangled Banner made its sporting event debut in September 1918 during that year's first World Series game between the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox. In addition to the ongoing toll of World War I, a cloud of violence hung over Chicago's Comiskey Park as a bomb had torn apart the Chicago Federal Building just the day before. During the 7th inning stretch, the military band on hand struck up the Star Spangled Banner, and in a moving spectacle, players and fans alike fell completely silent and stood and saluted that flag. The practice soon spread across Major League Baseball and into other sports, and eventually became a widely accepted pregame tradition. To me personally, as long as that flag is still flying high in the air, I know that we as a country have not yet surrendered. We still live in the greatest country on the face of the earth, and I will continue to honor and respect that grand old flag and everything that comes with it. I hope you enjoyed this story today, and as you go about your weekend activities, I hope that as you pass by the many hundreds or thousands of waving American flags that you will see, that you will pause and reflect on the lives and the people who have enabled us to enjoy the freedoms that we have today. And Until tomorrow.